tart.
So we had to switch to beer.
Yes.
So that's no good.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the Two-Hearted Ale American IPA, which I kind of like. It's a Bell's. It's a Bell's brewery.
Illustration on there.
It's got a nice fishy on it.
Nice fishy.
Here's for you.
Thank you. I'm going to scooch this
Let us know what you're drinking in the chat. That's for you over there.
Thank you very much.
And one more. Hi, John Park. Nice to see you. This is good. This is good. I'm just looking to see. Mom is here.
Yes.
And David Backus is here.
Yes.
David, I am very much looking forward to some stuff coming up, which I won't mention, but I'm excited about that. So I know we haven't talked in the last couple of, since Sherry's show, but we will. Anyway.
Look at our glasses.
I know. Wait. I've got a little, look at the size of Terry's glass.
I got a big glass. I have to say, one of our faithful fans, Pumpkin Audrey, gave this to us. So it's got a TNT logo on it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. And I've got the Hamlet Dobbins Memphis, Tennessee glass here. So if you're out there, Hamlet. Christina McKinnon is here.
Hey.
Nice to see you. Shirley's got a Malbec Shiraz blend.
Yum.
Good. Joseph Barbacci is going sober tonight.
Okay.
Good job.
Deer Park Water.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, episode 87. We're excited to bring you tonight's artist.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Mom's got a water also. Mom and Joseph Barbacci, they're going water.
Ooh. Funky Spanish White from Madrid.
Ooh.
Nice. More water.
Mike Rader Potato Head is here. He's drinking magnetic tape from Grimm Brewery. You know, Sherry had the Grimm Brewery. We've had the Grimm. There's some really interesting stuff in their lineup. That's like I've had some really good stuff there and some overpoweringly strange things that I've enjoyed. But that's an acquired beer for sure.
He says it's a block from us.
Oh, no kidding.
Nice.
Okay. Well, we're going. Let's see. News. We've got some stuff we got to talk about really quickly before we bring out our artist.
We do.
So the obvious one.
The big one.
The big one that we keep plugging away at.
Yes.
Is the 100 in Art Tour.
That's this coming weekend.
And we want to see you here. So,
on May 1st is our open studio.
That's on the Sunday. But
that's
the
Sunday.
The tour's events take place Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's the 29th, the 30th, and the 1st. Starting with Friday evening at the 100 in Art Museum. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a kickoff reception. All the artists that are in the tour will have a piece in the 100 in Art Museum. You kind of get to peruse the galleries, take a look at who you might want to go see on either Saturday or Sunday, and then go from there. It's a good time. There is actually a registration associated with it. There is no fee to go to the reception, but I'm going to pop that into the chat for you guys so you can see it. There's a link to that. And if you're planning on going, I just popped it in there. You can hit that link, and that's going to take you over to a sign-up page that's just for the Friday night reception. Now, Saturday, they've taken the western half of the county and opened all the studios in the western half. So lovely towns like Frenchtown, Lambertville, and others. There are all kinds of artists that'll have their studios open through that area, Stockton and so on and so forth. And it's a gorgeous drive. So you're heading down the Delaware River. The weather's supposed to be nice. And each individual artist is probably going to have their own way in which they handle their studio.
Sure.
And then Sunday, it's the eastern half of the county, which is us. And Christina McKinnon.
Yes.
And others.
And others.
But we're excited about that. We'd love to see you. It actually was the driving impetus for me to finally finish Teenies, the actual Teenies structure.
Yes.
Which is still, it's about 90%, but now totally workable.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some wine, we'll have some cheese, and we're going to have workout for you to see.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good time.
I think so, too. I think Jeff will be joining us, too.
Jeff McConnell from last week's show is actually going to be at our studio. So you can meet him personally. I don't know if he's going to bring any work down.
Yeah.
He might.
Sure. He might.
He might. If you're watching tonight, Jeff, let us know. But he'll be here. So that's kind of cool also.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right.
we're looking forward to seeing you. If you're here for the first time and you're here to watch the Val Sivilli show tonight and you're, interested in our channel, please leave us a follow. If you're on Twitch, it's a follow. If you're on YouTube, it's a subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, it's a like. So whatever you can do, that would be helping us out. Mike Rader says mini teenies.
Yes.
Oh, no, I mean, I think that's like a drink. We could make mini teenies.
Well, I think he's also
love
talking
that.
about our bar.
We Batwork followed on Twitch. Thank you. See, that's what I like.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Thank you for that. Welcome to the show, by the way. There we go. Facebook. Jeff McConnell's over there.
There
he's
he
kind of
is.
like his eyes. He's popping some wide-eyed icons there. Like, I don't know. Am I going to bring anything? Let's see. Shirley says, I will bring the Calpernas. Oh, Shirley, is that drink we had at your house that time that I brought over the alcohol for? That's a really
Potent.
That's potent. That's
Potent
good stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Enough of that.
Enough of that.
One last plug. Whittemore, of course. Whittemore CCC is also a big part of the Hunt and Art Tour, and they're going to be having events on Saturday and Sunday. So you definitely want to head over to Whittemore's page and check that out. That is whittemoreccc.org, and I believe I can pop that right up here for you. If it will come out. Did it come out?
No.
It didn't come out?
Just a little logo in the screen there.
I'll fix that before the end of the show. I will have that link for you. Okay.
Okay.
So do you want to start talking about our show tonight?
We can start talking about our show. So we've been rolling with some Hunterdon County artists, people from our neck of the woods, and tonight is no different. So tonight we have printmaker and painter Val Sivilli joining us live from her Hunterdon County studio. She was educated over at Mason Grove School of the Arts. She earned her MFA in printmaking and painting. She also has a BFA from Alfred University with her focus being printmaking, painting, and ceramics. And she was also educated in the BFA program at SUNY Purchase and Visual Arts Foundation. Her work has been featured pretty much all over New Jersey in both solo and group exhibitions. She's also collaborated with many other artists on various projects. She spearheaded many notable community projects that can mostly be found on her website, but some of them include being a founding member of the Hunterdon Art Tour, in which she also directed some operations and was a graphic designer. She also had Civilian Art School, which is her design and screen printing business. She is very eclectic and diverse in her interests. She's an accordion player, a photographer, a writer, a mother, a teacher, a curator. She wears many hats. I'm very pleased to introduce Val Sivilli.
And there she is.
There she is.
Don't forget to unmute, Val.
It was a walk-on.
I know. I love that.
She's
It's
like,
just
"Here
like,
I am."
here I am.
It was like an entrance. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I have some white wine.
Is that in a pint glass?
The other way I drink it.
I love that. Nice.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cheers to you, Val. We love
Cheers to the large glass.
we love having you on the show. We're excited that you're here, and we can't wait to talk about your work. So you usually kick us off.
I usually do.
Every week. So
Yes.
you wanna give us the
Yeah.
huge?
So we're very familiar with what it is that you do. And when I was researching you this week, you do a lot. You do a lot of stuff. But normally what we have people do, the artists when they come on, we just have them describe what it is exactly that they focus on and give our listeners a background about what it is you do.
Okay, so I basically these days I kind of toggle between oil painting and printmaking, which I use acrylic paint for. So I do both of those. I work sometimes on paper and sometimes on canvas. I tend to be a printmaker, but not in so much in the traditional sense. I use printmaking to facilitate painting, to add imagery to compositions. I mean, there's a lot of work I've done, but basically at this point, I'm kind of focusing on what's the consistent themes or what really drives the underbelly of what I do. So I've kind of landed in this place where I've been drawing these and painting different kinds of tools. And mostly that has to do with the fact that, I've been watching students. I've been teaching for a long time, so I've been watching students over the years, change as 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds for the last, it's like 25 years, 30 years now. I think it's been a long time since I started teaching. And, the facility of understanding how to use your hands and just basic actual physical labor, those skills, those are not taught quite as much. And hands themselves, which I've been so obsessed with over the years, just the actual mechanics of hands, has been like a driving factor in my life. I play the piano, it's like using your hands, just the physical labor of what hands do. And hand tools are as well this kind of structural these great kind of forms that facilitate physical handwork, right? So just focusing on them has been kind of fascinating for me. Just kind of deal with, so you can see some of the ideas, some of the structures that I've been dealing with, but also the compositions and, using them as subject matters for color and composition problems to solve, so that they become something more than what they actually are. I kind of enjoyed that you put the corkscrew on as your announcement. I was happy about that.
It was very fitting.
Well,
I thought so.
The first, I love getting. I picked up the corkscrew as you said that. But first thing I want to do is I want to thank Shirley Perlinsky for gifting 10 subs. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. That's awesome.
Yay.
Yeah. So there's something I was going through your works in the last couple of days that we went over what you were going to talk about tonight, and I started going over some of the hand tools. Now, as a maker, as somebody I'm very engaged with hand tools, I noticed that they fit inside of a very, very specific, there's certain mechanisms within these hand tools that seem to be consistent. And I'm curious about if there's a particular type of hand tool you're drawn to. Before I sort of put my thinking on what you're doing, I'm curious about how you're selecting those for this body of work. Like, what are you thinking about?
Well, I'm thinking about if they are, first of all, able to be sacrificed because they're going to get paint all over them. There's that. Number one. Number two, if they, have some way of like with the, it started basically with the hammer. There was this sense that it was becoming a transition for the expression of anger and work at the same time. So both, like using energy, like banging, like, you can use a hammer to build something, or you can use a hammer to kill somebody. I mean, you can do either one. So
either or.
It's a little dark. That's a little dark, but it's kind of true. But with what I kind of did begin to kind of move towards were the the wrenches and the pliers. And mostly what started to happen is that, they started to show their mouths. Because I'm mouthy, but they started to show their mouths, and they started to show their ability to be like vociferous in their eating ability, their clamping ability, and their ability to show tenderness, even though they're hard and they're, mathematically structured and, these physical objects. So they started to kind of became sort of, like this one here, this one right here, I call tenderness, because it's like these really hard, mechanical, really, but it's, oh, look, you put it up, good. But it, there's this gentleness when it actually kind of like cradles the other, the two of them they're kind of it's very intimate. It's almost like a cat when, it's carrying its young, it grabs it by the neck, but there's a love to that, right? To move it to a safe place. So it's sort of like that, but in a mechanical way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. But I'm also like to find these structures so that I can, I can actually build the structure, because that's also what I'm thinking about, how the light hits it, how the color changes, how I can change the color, how I can work with the composition to make that feel dynamic. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I was kind of going down the same road a little bit with these, because there is a kind of, there's a kind of intimacy paired with a brutality, and a brutality is a strong word. I don't like that word so much, but
it's fine. I that's fine. Brutality. I think there is a brutality. I think it's true.
Well, maybe in the form, because it's a hard metal working tool. It's like I think of it as a masculine thing, because it's hand tools and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about the ways in which, okay, so we've got channel lock pliers, we've got regular pliers that kind of have two settings on them. We have a crescent wrench, right, and a variety of other things that all have, with the exception of the hammer, they have this kind of rotational mechanism. They have a claw mechanism. They have a gripping mechanism. So there's this seeming desire to hold. There's a seeming desire to sort of function as an extension of the hand with both a strength and a precision. Even though these are not necessarily tools of precision,
sure,
you can get a nut off of like a stuck bolt with one of these, or you could pick up a nail off of you could pick up a hair off of your bench with it. So I like the fact that it's got that dual purpose. But they're beautiful objects in the same. They have a kind of anthropomorphized presence.
Yeah, they do. I mean, and I recently had Susan Monyard in my studio because I painted a lot of these tools, and then as I do with many things, I start to kind of hit a wall with where I'm going with it. I think artists do that a lot, but I tend to be really regular where I go through like, how can I take this, like the one that you have up there, there was a sexual element. There was like a wow, you can actually be spread eagle. Who thought? Who'd have thunk you could do that with tools?
Yeah.
But it just okay. So there's like erotica. I mean, you can kind of play around with all of this. All of the, witnesses and everybody together. So you can kind of take this in these directions that are really provocative. But at some point, I start to wonder where I come in, like where I come in.
Yeah.
And so then I sometimes it's just about creating the work because it's fascinating. And then it needs to kind of start to get something personal to start to kind of activate. And if that doesn't happen, I tend to kind of pivot and then, change gears. So when Susan Monyard came over, we talked quite a bit. I thank her for her attention to giving me a great critique to talk about intention. And for the next few weeks, I started to really, stare down what I was doing and why. And I started to do some rubbings of tools. So when I'm going to just hold something up here. So when I did, this one here is, these are rubbings that are glued down onto a board. They're rubbings on paper, and then the paper is glued down onto the board. And then as the, this kind of shape kind of built up, it's like, so you see here is an upside down corkscrew, and there's a hammerhead here, and then you can see some of the corkscrews open, and it's like, so it started to feel like bombs and dead people and attacking, and it started to feel like, the war we're going through, right? So that started to make me kind of interested in, the fact that we're in whatever environment or whatever news is happening is affecting our psyche, right? So I did a bunch of these, and then I came into the studio. And I was like, all right, I've been seeing a lot of Ukraine stuff online. I've been seeing a lot of, people responding to the war, and people, artists like doing, war-related stuff, and that felt war-related. But then in the same way that Black Lives Matter issues, like, those kinds of issues I don't necessarily feel like they're my issues to represent. That's, I feel like I have issues to represent that are my issues. It's not as if I'm not going to, I don't want to co-opt issues that are not mine.
Of
You know what I'm
course.
saying?
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So if they're going to come through me, I think they need to come through me for my experience and be, wow, there's a stink
saw that.
bugs.
That
Don't
was,
you hate stink bugs?
That was big.
Yes, that was a big stink bug. Anyway, and I am a stink bug murderer, I have to say. Anyway, so when I came into the studio, it was like last week, and I started thinking, it was like 2 weeks ago or so. Started thinking about the fact that the tools weren't engaging me anymore. Like, I'm like, do I care about the war? Yes, I care about the war, but is it something I want to paint about? And I was like, no, I don't. And so I started thinking about the tools. I engaged in them. They were interesting. They got me to a certain point, and I thought, that's when I started shifting to the corkscrews and thinking, I like wine. That's me. That's fine.
Well, go ahead.
But then I'll just finish this thought.
Go ahead.
Is that then I moved on, starting to think about what issue that's happening in this world engages me and gets my goat going. And it is what's the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That's going to happen soon. That is personal. That's one of the biggest horrors I'm watching in this country right now. And that's where the hanger stuff started coming in. That's where the hanger work started, because that's as well a tool,
right,
quote unquote.
Right, and we haven't seen those yet, but we're going to bring those up in a few minutes. There's a couple of comments coming into the chat.
Okay.
So particularly, let's see, Joseph Barbacci is like threatening teeth, and then John Park immediately follows that with, like an animal at play with another biting, which is interesting in terms of your other work, which we don't necessarily have. We've got some of it loaded up maybe for later if we get to it, but you've covered a lot of ground. And I liked what you said. You haven't said it yet tonight, but you had mentioned something about how you engage with a new idea, a new body of work, because you're drawn to something and you don't know if it has any connection to what you did before. And then as you're getting into the work, you sort of see that connection become real. Right. So how does the tool work relate to some of the earlier work you've done in that way? Can you, now that you've been able to see it?
Yeah, okay. So in about 2006, I started to do some paintings of the body, some images that were, painting like the torso. I mean, I had children and women's bodies changing, all of that. And when I started to kind of get frustrated with actually painting the flesh and painting, the organs or painting the shape. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, So then I realized, wait, but printmaker, I got a plate. I have a big old plate right here. So I started doing body prints, and I spent a lot of time doing body prints. And then I started to connect the body prints with prints of like skeletons. So that's a sign language print, which came out of the body print series. So this whole using the body in this print with this printmaker aesthetic started to develop. And I did that for a long time. So I did that with, just working with the body with, like really overt images of sexuality and death kind of simultaneously. And then, images of, there was a shift to doing this sign language series, which I really enjoyed. And then at some point it kind of burnt itself out, and I started to do other things. So that, I think that's coming back to the printing on muslin and mounting it onto canvas comes from there. So does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I was just curious, I had a thought while you were saying that, because you're talking about the body, you're talking about printing on the canvas, you're talking about sexuality and the body. And this week, while we were kind of like going over what we were going to talk about, and I was thinking about your work, and I know that you came out of Rutgers Mason Gross School of the Arts, I decided to look up and see what Joan Semmel has been up to lately, and I'm certain you probably had contact with her at some point.
Yeah, she was one of my professors. Yeah.
She was actually one of mine as well, and I started and I was really interested in the differences between the differences and similarities in the way the two of you work. But did she have an impact on you? Is there a connection there that we can think of, or is it?
Yeah, she did. She did, because I did a lot of. I worked a lot with images of the body, and she would critique often, images that I had done that were, self-referential, or in strange angles with my partner.
Right. And and then I can't help but then flip back to this, and it kind of has that.
Can't get away from sex, it seems.
Well, yeah, but I like the transition, right? Because I like how now all of a sudden the translation between what we just talked about and this is like this interesting little extension of the hand, right? There's like this metaphorical connection that's visual and we see it. And you said the spread eagle thing, but then I start thinking about it on a much more subtle, delicate, and intimate, careful level, right? Even though the tools represent something different, there's like, it's got this beautiful kind of duality for me, which I really appreciate.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, and I mean, bringing up artists that I don't have images of, like Joan Semmel, is also problematic because I don't have something to throw out there for the audience to see.
Yeah, I think Joan Semmel, if for the audience who's out there, her success happened when she started doing paintings of her body down nude. Right. So where she was looking down, it was like during the whole feminist uprising time. So it was this whole self, this kind of self-awareness of being in your own body. Right. So there was that was her, I think, big turning point.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And also, did you and I hate to keep bringing up other artists, but you also, let's just stay on Rutgers for a second. You had done some work with Leon Golub and Nancy Spiro, is that right?
Yeah, I was there. I was a studio assistant to them for about 6 years back when I was. Yeah, and at the time I went to graduate school, like around that time. Yeah. That's
a. We should probably have that as another story at some time. But that's a really.
It's a big story. They were lovely. They were lovely. It was a beautiful time, and I enjoyed them thoroughly. And then it was over. Then it was time for me to move out to Hunterdon County and make babies. It was that.
Well, it's a good place to make babies.
Yeah, it's a good place to make babies.
So let's stick with your work now though, instead of talking about everybody else. Okay, so I want to kind of see the coat hanger pieces, which we'll get to, but I also kind of want to give these pieces their due. So I just want to flip through a couple more of these while we're here. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Joseph Barbacci says, I'm seeing two penises as handles. I think we were talking about that piece right there. Oh, whoa. Yeah. Joseph.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah, I didn't see those penises before.
Come on, Val.
Come on.
You totally saw that before.
Maybe. I don't know. The handles look like penises. I can't get away from them.
See, the chat is revealing things to you about your work. I love that. I love that. Okay, so let's see. We've got, somebody's here from YouTube. This is Ula Warkchal.
Ula, she made it.
Yeah. So it's nice to know that. By the way, if you all in the chat have questions for Val, feel free to type them in. Feel free to make comments. We will relay them to Val since she can't see them right now. But Joseph Barbacci says, my analyst will love this. So we had a couple questions earlier about size and medium in these. So what do you work with, and how big do these tend to be?
A lot of the tool ones are a little bit smaller. Like some of the, so these are the one like you have now. You see how small they are.
Oh, okay.
And you can see the scale of them according to me. This is a triptych. Which I'd love to talk about this one because this one was a transition piece, and that's a little tall. There's a couple of pieces like the hanger piece. Let me just turn this. The one that's here is I don't say as big as I get, but this is and canvas wise, that's almost as big as I get, and mostly because I'll tell you something. I had to deliver a painting to a show, and I had to borrow my son's truck. You know what? So I tend to kind of want to avoid that.
Accessibility.
Or I don't want to get a bigger car,
Yeah, I get that.
And even I tried using Ula's car, and the canvas wouldn't fit. So I try to work where it can travel.
Yeah, you got
or roll it. I had those animals. The animal work was big, 6 foot tall, but I could roll it. So
yeah. No, that utility totally makes sense to me. One of our viewers, Weeba Twerk, is curious. How do you feel about Jim Dine's work, if at all?
Oh, I love Jim Dine's work. Yeah, I love Jim Dine's work. Yes, I do. He does those beautiful drawings of tools. They're so luscious.
Yeah.
He does those lithographs and etching.
Yeah,
that's very beautiful.
That's a great connection. I don't have something to show the other viewers, but you could definitely look that up. Okay, so let's see. Let's look at you want to look at the coat hanger stuff?
We can look at the
pull
coat
that
hanger
up?
stuff.
Now I'm going to get a little closer. Well, I'm going to get a little closer to this one. To show this one
Is that
a little.
That's not this.
No.
Whoops, that's the wrong one. Hold on a minute.
Oh, well, that's a possum piece. That has its own mythology.
That's a totally different thing. Do I have the right one here? No.
Oh, you might. You know what? You might not have any.
I don't think I do. These are too new. I don't have them.
You probably don't because they are too new, and I really haven't posted them on anywhere yet. I don't know what I sent you. I don't think I even sent you this. I sent you the one that you just.
It's an exclusive.
It is. I'll stop bouncing all over the place and let you show us what you've got on the wall there.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to move back to the tall, skinny one, the one that you were just, and I'll just kind of go back to it.
Okay.
The back to the tall, skinny one, because this one helped me a lot to move to the next place. Because I did this, and there was a demo print for it. There was a demo video for it that I posted on just printing it. Here we go. You see the whole thing. And you could see it on there as well. But it's just basically a triptych, and it didn't have any words in the background. And we talked about this a little bit on last week when we chatted. And it felt a lot like, bombing, and the tools were kind of like becoming these figures, and then they were like kind of landing and killing things. And then out of that rises up this cross, right? This cross image, which feels a lot to me like what is pushing the whole movement towards control of women's bodies again. So that's where I kind of went with this. I was like, okay, so even this is much about war and about the current climate that kind of combines both the feeling that there is this impending World War III around us at all time right now, plus this like again creating this whole battlefield of the woman's body. Like why? I never understand this whole like inability to accept the fact that yes, if you are not in favor of if you are not pro-choice, then don't have an abortion ever. Don't ever do that. Always have your children if you want. Never use birth control if you don't want to. That's fine. But don't tell me what to do with my body. Don't tell my daughter what to do with her body.
Right.
So when I got there, I started to think, I've been thinking ranting because I rant a lot. I'm thinking about this whole like ranting, this whole like way of like, just like releasing energy and like going on this whole rant just to release all that anger and just kind of really say what you really, really feel at that moment, whether or not it's politically correct or whether or not it's, it's whatever it is, just to let it out and let it out honestly. And I found this video by Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks that went kind of viral on Twitter. And it's basically and I sent you a link to it, so hopefully you can share that at some point. But it was, did you get that link? Did I send it to you?
I think we did. Terry's going to check right now, but keep going.
Okay. Because basically she goes on this whole rant about, I don't care about your religion. I don't care about the Bible, because she's not Christian, because she doesn't want anybody to basically tell her what to do. So I started using that text and writing it. What happened while I was doing that is I started to find myself erasing it like a little bit, muting it so it wasn't so obvious. And then I started to realize that I am being so affected. Well, I've known this anyway because I ran a whole t-shirt company for so long. I am so affected by the perception of that honest feeling, like the way she honestly delivered that was so refreshing to me, just to say exactly what she felt, and not worry about the backlash. She has her platform, she has her point of view. And I was really enamored by that. But then I watched myself do it, but I watched myself pull it back just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting, the way the pullback that you experience. I've seen her. I follow her on TikTok actually, and she's always she's great the way she presents her material. But I feel like in your work, in that translational element of your work, I'm not going to necessarily say there has to be a pullback, but the translation itself functions as a kind of pullback. There's a really interesting difference between the energy in the printed piece that you're standing in front of now and one of the painted pieces of the tools. There's a physicality. There's a physicality to that piece from, because now you're actually using the tools as a print block, right? And so to think about a metal print block slamming into or being pressed into that surface, there's a lot more of you as a physical entity that's kind of now impacting, pardon the pun, the surface. Whereas a painting of tools is a more careful reflection, representation of the thing. So they're two very different worlds. And at first I struggled with the color differences in them. And I have a comment in the chat right now about your use of color in the paintings, which I'll get to. But at first I struggled with that, but now the difference seems like the color it's a difference in color that's necessary. So maybe that's the pullback, right? So
yeah, they're very different. I mean, I think this last few weeks have been thinking about, and I think because I go back and forth between working like fast and with printmaking materials with very muted colors and a lot of like earthy tones and subtle delivery of mark making, and then I want to go and it's time to kind of go into my oil paints and get a nice clean white canvas and think about how color functions as a huge element of the voice of the color and the composition and how you represent an object that way.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth. It's like
Well.
And I think that's okay.
I think that's great. And there's a comment I want to read real quick on that notion. It's from John Park, who says, I'm loving the colors. I really like how the blues are exaggerated in the metals, and then the yellow makes a very interesting offset color. The palette also has a kind of worn quality to its colorway. I like that very last sentence the most. It's that worn quality to your color. You mute them just enough, but maintain a relationship in the way they sort of sing, that it's not too much. It's really quite nice.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you. I try really hard to do that.
You want to watch that video?
Sure. It's only like a minute.
I have it. Actually, Terri just slammed it in. Terry's really good at making things happen.
Go for it.
Here we go.
Love it.
Let's watch this. Is this going to work? Where do I play this from? I think I play this from here.
So these comments might be strong, but it's how I genuinely feel. I don't care that you're a Christian. I don't care what the Bible says. I feel like it's a clown show, sitting here trying to decipher what your little mythical book has to say about these very real political issues, right? I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having nonstop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care, but you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care. I don't believe in it. And I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
Bob, boom. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, and I like how she kind of evens it out. She's like, you do yours and we'll do ours,
Yeah. So you do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's stop getting in the way of my thing. 'Cause
Right.
you don't have a right to do that.
Right. Right.
Right.
Whatever
But
it is.
But it's a diplomatic argument too. I mean, she doesn't deny anybody else their
She's not
freedoms
taking
and
anything
stuff.
away
Right,
from anybody.
Right, and
right?
that's
She's
what's well done
saying,
about
you
that.
know,
I know for
that's
sure.
the one I was looking
For
for.
sure.
So,
Well, let me move over to the hangers then, because
oh yeah,
that
you
was the
wanted
next.
to kind of go on the hanger thing here.
I just wanted to talk about the fact that the hangers themselves are the print source, because the hanger is the tool that we might only be left with if we have no real surgical abortions available to us, if there are no doctors who are willing to do this, no hospitals who are going to allow us to have abortions. If not, I'm obviously I'm past that age, but had my own fertility years. And I have, I have a daughter. There's people in my life that are young. There are all kinds of people who are young who have the same, have issues of their own autonomy of their body. So having the hanger was the tool. That was what we used, way back when.
Can you get
kills
closer?
women.
Can you get closer to that by any chance?
I can.
Sorry,
I can get. You can see.
There's something about the way in which. Go ahead.
No, so process-wise,
Yeah,
I'm curious about, because I don't want to make inferences. So you're applying the pigment to the hanger itself, and you're gently laying it on the canvas, or are you doing it more like angry? Because you were talking before with the hammers, you were striking it. It was a very physical process. It was.
There's a lot of anger.
So are you yes? Are you doing the same thing with these hanger pieces? Are you going to town on it, or talk about the process a little bit? Like, I want to visualize how you're.
I mean, there is
this.
a video that I did record on Instagram today. So my last post on Instagram is actually a video of me printing some hangers. There's another one on the wall. I'll carry you over to the wall. Let me go slowly, because you said before that my signal went weird when I moved too fast. So let's move over here.
And as you're walking, I want to point out that I feel like in that process with that object that sort of represents this, this horrific topic that we're talking about, you do manage to extrapolate a certain amount of beauty from this.
I can't help that. I just still think that ultimately art should be beautiful. And I know that that's probably a flaw, but it's not. I can't get away from that. I mean, I read something recently. I think it was at Art Yard too. It was on the wall, and it was an artist who dealt with political issues, and they were very everything was very raw. And she said something about fighting the urge to make her piece beautiful. And I thought, okay, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to fight that? Because for me, I'd rather be seduced by a piece first and then slam dunk by the actual message. I want to be brought in.
Sure.
And in the 80s, there was a lot of work that was gross. I mean, there was a lot of work. I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of work that was like, you walk into a gallery and it's like a monkey taking a shit. It's like, but do I want to see that? No.
Right.
I don't want to see that.
Right.
So there's just, I want to, not that everything needs to be beautiful. Obviously, there's anger here, there's violence, but still there's an aesthetic, there's a seduction. Still want a seduction. I still want the rules of visual art to dictate that conversation between the viewer and the piece. That's important to me.
Yeah, Ula Warchall is saying, I am loving this conversation. Val paints what she's hearing, seeing, feeling, much like a songwriter, a poet, which she also is. There's power to her message, which is the work every day. Carolyn Thousand is actually still used today. She's talking about a coat hanger again. So have you finished one of these yet, or are they all still in process? Is the one on the other
They're
wall?
all still in process.
Still working them out?
mean, even the one that I showed you before, I should go back to the other one because I can actually do that, because there's another one that has text on it.
I'm going to switch up our other image.
I was playing a little bit with it when we were. So this one.
Oh yeah, so that's a new one. You just started that one, right?
Yeah, I just added some outline. So my body remains a battlefield is So it's a small piece. It was just, just so you can, so it's like, this is sort of remnants, they're remnants of hangers. But it feels like, it feels like destruction.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the letter A and I isolated it. I always remembered about how A is like a beginning, the letter A, and it's the symbol of the letter A. And, I sent my daughter to Waldorf school for a little while, and a lot of my friends went to Waldorf school. And one of the things they do in Waldorf school, one of the first things they do with kindergartners, is they walk around. They actually they walk around the letter A, because physically there's a connection to the symbol. So I'm bringing that up because I've always been fascinated by how we're attached, how we're connected to symbols in this kind of ancient DNA kind of way, and what that means. And we don't always know what that means. Like, I don't really know specifically what that necessarily means in the middle right now. And I've been reading a lot of Jerry Saltz.
Yes.
He annoys me a little bit, but I've been reading him anyway because he's smart about. But one of the things he does say is, we don't know what our work's about. And I torture myself sometimes, like, I have to know what I'm doing. It's a Rutgers thing. When you go to Mason Grove,
Trust me, I know.
I have to. You must know. Like, I have to know why I'm using the color pink. But I don't have to know that right then.
That's right.
And Jerry Saltz talked about just like letting yourself make stuff, because you don't really know why. And it was a kind of a lovely permission. So I thank him, wherever he may be.
Yeah, it's hard breaking free from that kind of thing that gets slammed into your head all the time, that the intention of every aspect of what you're doing. And you said something interesting earlier that I think sort of counters that notion, and that is, you start a new body of work, you don't exactly know why, but after seeing it, the connections are made, that you see them, they reveal themselves. Another thing I'm really seeing right now, especially as you have that piece behind you and you're talking about the Waldorf school, you're talking about the letter A and walking around the letter A, and earlier you were talking about the notion of sign language and the body. You were talking about your hands and playing the piano. We're talking about these tools. And I love how there is, number one, a glyphic nature to even the tools themselves, right? But there's also this kind of, there is this real solid connection to letter form in this very interesting way. I mean, we were talking about, we're trying to find all these like sexual positions and stuff in handles, but there's like a language in this. There's a letter form aspect to this that's really kind of interesting to me. And the more I look at it, the more I'm starting to see it. And I'm wondering how that plays out. And maybe we don't have the answer for that now. But I like that.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, and I've always been really interested in symbols. And in my t-shirt company, one of the symbol systems that I was always really obsessed with, and I'm still obsessed with, is hobo symbols. I don't know if you've heard of hobo symbols, but they're the symbols that, in the early part of the 20th century, that hobos would leave behind. Like, they would get off the train and they would leave a symbol carved into a tree or something, and it would be this whole set of glyphs that was a whole, way that the train riders would communicate to each other, like, a kind woman lives here, or there are dogs here. And those symbols to me have always been incredibly fascinating. I feel like, they could be used, which I've never been smart enough to actually make bigger things about them, but I feel like there could be more that could be used about them. You're putting up this one because
no, I have it in the list, and I just saw it. I'm just trying to cycle through, as we were approaching the 9 o'clock hour, I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of images we haven't seen. So I'm just kind of like pushing through. Do you have, let's see. So first of all, you did mention that your studio is going to be open this weekend, but you're not on the tour, correct?
It's not open. No, that was a misunderstanding. What I remember, when we got off the Zoom earlier in the week, I was like, wait, I meant that this was actually our studio, my studio, like this.
Okay, good. I want to make sure of that.
No, I'm not open.
That's my fault.
I'm actually gonna be helping Annalise von Domelin on Saturday at her studio.
Great.
So if anybody wants to come say hi or come and see Annalise work, and come down there and visit.
Great. Do you have anything on the horizon? You know, like, do you have any shows coming up or anything in that nature yet?
I don't. I really don't. I have, you know, there's a new gallery that's taken me on, and I showed with her in near Fort Lee over there, East Ridgefield. I can never remember the name of the town. It's like a little New Jersey town close to New York. And it's called the Art Mora Gallery. So she's taken me on, and that was really nice. And I had a show there, but I really don't. I don't have.
Okay.
I've not been all that aggressive about, you know.
That's totally okay. I mean, I ask that just so you have an opportunity to tell us.
That's nice. Thank you.
Joseph Barbaccia just mentioned something in the chat that I think is really interesting. And he says intention equals attempt to control. Now, I gotta say, I like that because now it's a kind of tool, pardon the pun, implemented by the art establishment, I think, to, I don't know, there's a manipulation there. I like that. Joseph, we're going to have a drink and we're going to talk about this further. I like this.
I like it too.
Let's see. Memory Vessel says, where can we find the open studio information? Are you talking about Hunterdon Art Tour? Then you want to definitely head over to, why don't you Google the Hunterdon, Hunterdon Art Tour. I don't have the link up right now. I will get it in the chat for you in a second. How about that? I'll get it in the chat. All right. Sorry, Val. I didn't mean to stray off on that for a second.
No, that's okay, because you really should talk about it, because it's really happening and it's exciting.
No. I don't mean the tour.
Looking good.
I don't mean the tour. I mean this notion of intention and control. Because I'm interested in that. Can we pop up some earlier works? Can we look at some earlier works really quickly? Because I love to draw that line. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. So I love these pieces. And I'm just going to kind of cruise through them. But was this maybe the most, like, after everything we've seen, if we go back in the timeline, would this be the most recent thing before that?
Yeah. The animal pieces, yeah.
Yeah.
The cat paintings came right after that. So the cat fight paintings. But
oh yeah, so I think we have those down there.
Yeah,
kind of around
right
the
there.
same time.
So we've got these also. And
Yeah.
These are, I love these.
I love these too.
And so they're a very different angle. And so when we're talking about connections here, have you figured out the connection yet with some of these? Because they're really
a little bit
interesting.
of what you were talking about before is the glyphic nature of things. When I was doing the 14C art fair in the fall, I was sitting and looking at my wall, and I was like, God, everybody's fighting up there. There's like all arguing. There's some tension here and tension there and fighting there. And so, but everyone was doing so inside of a very kind of controlled, glyphic kind of presentation, which I think that's the connection I'm finding. Is there one thing that happened when Susan Manya, I'm going to bring her up again, came to my studio, is she was talking about the source of work, of where, there's what the work is about.
Yeah.
And then there's the source of your creativity.
Right.
What is that? And it took a while, but after a conversation with her, what I got to was the fact that I grew up playing classical piano. I was a classical pianist. That's kind of what I thought I would wind up doing as a human, as an adult. And it was very, what I realized as an adult is it got me through my childhood and my teen years intact. It got me, it created a connection to emotional release and expression and, reading glyphs when you learn, because I read music really well. So when you read music, I don't remember things. I don't memorize very well, but I read music very well. So when you're reading music, you're reading, the symbol systems, and you're translating them through your body into another emotional state. That starts with the composer that writes it down and has the image, has the music in their head, and you as a musician are taking the notation and translating it. And that expression of, I can remember the sitting at the piano, the sound of my, opening up the seat, the sound of the opening up my piano, the keys to get to the keys, and the feel of the ivory under your fingers, like all of that was my childhood. That's my childhood. I spent many years playing the piano. So that core experience of learning how to interpret emotion through music feeds all of my work. It's the same thrust. So the actual, it's a, visual arts, like you have these symbol systems, this visual stuff, this information, this visual information, but it's the same emotion that I'm going through while I'm working, the emotional, like emptying and the height that you reach, and then the, okay, I'm done, very sexual.
I like this I like this notion of the different pathways the brain can take from recognizing a symbol, whether it's a letter or a note on musical notation, and how its interpretation of that thing goes in completely different directions. I think I always struggled with the piano because if I saw the black quarter note on the first line of the notation, I was like, okay, that's an E, and an E is here. But there's a quicker jump for the brain from that note in that space to that E, and it doesn't involve going from the black note to the letter to the key, because that's like a sideways kind of translation. But here's the thing I'm thinking about is in art and the way you're making your paintings, it's like a third avenue, right? So it's now like this other complete set of glyphic information or symbolic information that there's another leap, right? So you're almost representative of three, leaps between that symbolic thing, and I love that, and I think that's normal. I mean, like, we understand that if we stop to think about how a piano is different from art, is different from a book, duh. But in your case, you're representing all three on some level, and they're all tied together by the hand, and maybe I love.
They are, yeah. It's also, and by the eye, because when I'm looking now at the letter A behind me, and I'm looking at the dough, put the dough back.
I'll put the dough back.
Put the dough back. It's an upside down A.
That's funny.
So, yeah. So, the actual structures of imagery as also glyphic, right?
Yeah. So maybe that's the takeaway here. I love that. Well, Val, it's hitting 9:00. We've loved chatting with you and seeing your work, and this has really been
lovely. Thank you.
It's been wonderful. There's a lot of comments coming in that I want to read to you before we go. Let's see. Ula Warchall says, and there's tenderness again. As I think we get back to cats and animals. Let's see. Ben Hagenbush, the use of color and brushstrokes are. He just says are very, and then he throws in nice. I didn't see that there, but he's loving on your work. He's like, check that out.
Thank you.
Let's see. Joseph Barbacci is noting that color strikes a chord, and also saying the basis of cubism is there as well. John Park says, really enjoyed the work and the conversation. I remember Val from the round table. Remember the round table discussion we had that you were at?
Yes.
When we were talking about bad art?
Yes, I remember that.
He said he felt immediately connected to you during that conversation.
I remember.
My mom says she loves your work. Jeff McConnell's thrown some icons up there of pleasure. I'm not sure what those are because I don't have my glasses on, but that looks good. Emojis and I are. And there's another glyphic symbolic language that I'm like trying to make the leap on. Yeah. But yeah, this has been great, Val. Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys.
So we look forward to seeing you.
And I'll try to get by your studio Sunday.
Great.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
If you come by the studio, you're going to get to meet some people because I know some people in this chat are going to be there. So
that'll be nice. I love that.
Cool.
That'll be awesome.
All right. We'll see you then, Val. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
All right. Let's pop back over and let's put on
the credits.
Do you want to put on the credits? How about the closing music?
The closing music and the credits.
All right. I'll put the credits on.
All right.
I don't know why, but my Stream Deck has stopped working. So let's do it this way. We're going to go this way. There's the closing music. It's so nice.
It is nice.
And let's put our credits up. All right. So that was a good show.
That was good.
She's amazing.
She is. I love her stuff.
I do too. I really wanted to jump into some of the beasts and some of the
big
cat fight
series.
stuff.
I didn't have her Assassin series up there either. Talk about a very strong series.
The various ways in which she moves through these series is really quite interesting. And, you know, one thing I forgot to put up on the screen was the bloody Instagram and website.
Oh.
It's fairly simple. You want to go to valsivilli.com or you want to go at Val Sivilli on Instagram. And you should be able to find her there. But
We can't run it because the credits are up?
no, I can't run it because it's not available on this screen.
Oh, okay.
I could pop back over to the other screen, but then that's not the way we do things.
That's not
I
it.
don't have
That's how we do things
I
here.
can't do that.
Okay.
There's
no
only
problem.
so much I can do.
Yeah.
Joseph Barbacci says TNT Dynamite. I love that's.
thank you.
Are you referencing the AC/DC song there? Because if we wouldn't get DMC8, I'd put that up right now because that's just that's too good of a reference. Let's see. Christina McKinnon says, "Love Val, great convo."
Yeah.
Jess Park loved everything about tonight. The work, the convenience, the energy. I think she means the conversation.
Yep.
Weeba Twerk says, "Love Val's honesty as an artist." Mom says, "Love Val's work." Carolyn Thous, "Love the show. Great. She has such an incredible body of work." You guys, we really appreciate all of this. Listen,
Yes.
we would really love to see you this weekend. Okay.
Yeah,
if
come
not,
on out.
having a glass of wine at the Hunterdon Art Museum on Friday night. Definitely get out here on Sunday and pay us a visit.
Yeah.
It's your one opportunity to get out here and hang out. There's going to be work for sale.
There is.
You know, you could get a piece of her work, maybe.
All right.
You're like, time to go, Todd.
Time to go, Todd. Well, thank you for joining us for another installment of The Large Glass. We'll see you next week.
Oh my God. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again. Listen, if you're new here, please leave a follow. We love you guys. Next week, we have Paul Corio on the show.
Gonna be
Paul's
awesome.
Painter, jazz drummer, brilliant mind. You're going to love talking to him.
Yep.
So definitely tune in next Tuesday if we don't get to see you this weekend.
Yes.
And we promise not to hold it against you.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. Cheers. Have a good night. Take care.
All right.